Good evening and welcome to the April 5th San Bruno Planning Commission meeting. Please, if you're in the audience, turn off your phones, cell phones, pagers. And for the folks at home, you can follow along at the sanbrunoca.gov. There's PDFs of the information there. Roll call, please.
Chair Biasotti.
Here.
Vice Chair Kayal.
Present.
Commissioner Chase.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Mishra.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Semu.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Chase, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Will. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 1, approval of the minutes for March 15th, 2016.
I move we approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Communications.
No additional communications this evening.
Thank you. Public comment. Item 3, is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak on an item not on the agenda this evening? Okay, public comment is closed. Conflicts of interest. Do we have any?
None.
Okay. So we'll move on to item, I'm sorry.
I may have one. I'll let you know when the item comes.
Very good, thank you. Item 5, public hearings. Item A, 859 Green Street, and it's a request for use permit to allow the construction of a two-story addition that would increase the floor area by 737 square feet. Michael.
Good evening, Commissioners. Michael Smith, Planning Department staff. The subject property is located on Green Avenue between San Bruno and Euclid Avenues in the San Bruno Park subdivision. The property is currently developed with a split-level single-family dwelling that was constructed in 1924 and contains 2 bedrooms and 1 bath and a single-car garage within 911 square feet of total gross floor area. Immediately adjacent to the subject property are single-family dwellings. The applicant is proposing to construct a 737 square foot 2-story addition at the rear of the existing single-family dwelling, which will increase the gross floor area of the existing home by greater than 50%, 81% to be exact. The new addition would measure 28 feet in depth and house a new family room and full bath at the ground floor and a new master bedroom and full bath at the upper floor. The addition would have a gabled roof and exterior materials that match the existing. If approved and constructed, the residence would become a 3-bedroom, 3-bath home with a total of 1,505 square feet of habitable area. The project requires the use permit because it's a 50% expansion, as I've stated. The Architectural Review Committee reviewed this project at its March meeting and forwarded the project to the Planning Commission with no additional recommendations. The department mailed hearing notices to neighbors within 300 feet of the subject property and no comments were received. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve this use permit request based on findings 1 through 6 and subject to conditions of approval 1 through 26. Staff finds that the design of the addition complies with the residential design guidelines because it would be well integrated with the existing single-family dwelling using materials that match the existing, and furthermore, the addition would not be readily visible from the street. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Do we have any questions for staff?
Through the chair.
Commissioner Peterson.
I'm trying to reconcile the project description on page 1 with the project details on page 3. For example, it says total 1,505 square feet of habitable area excluding the garage. So if I take 1648 minus 143, I get, that's how I get the 1505, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the 737 square feet, is that any place in the tables? Like the proposed says 689 in the table square footage breakdown.
No, that specific number is not in the table. So how the table is structured, it provides the existing lot coverage and gross floor area, and then it provides the proposed. And the only way to really, let me see. Yeah, so that number isn't exactly stated anywhere in that table. It's only in the project description, which is on the first page.
So wouldn't it be part of the proposed figures?
Well, the proposed condition talks about lot coverage, and it talks about gross floor area.
Well, I mean the square footage breakdown table below that.
Oh, sorry.
It says 689 proposed.
Through the chair, if I could, I would
correct.
agree with that comment. I think we
Yes.
need to correct the table. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I was just trying to figure it out.
You're right.
Sorry, I
Okay.
didn't realize what table you were referring to. So yes, in the square footage breakdown table where it says 689, it should be the 737 number.
And the other question I had was about on page 4, it talks about a more detailed landscaping plan, and on page 6, in the conditions, it says the site shall be landscaped according to the plans approved by the Planning Commission on April 5th. But the plans essentially show all impervious, that most of the ground around the structure will be all impervious surface. I don't think there's a landscaping plan per se, unless maybe I missed a page.
It's included in the site plan, that's why. But yeah, you're right. It shows all of it included.
Well, that's on A1.
It's sort of a combination
Oh,
landscape.
right, that's why I got the all impervious surface, because the whole area around the structure is marked impervious landscape area. So I'm not clear on how, is that an impervious surface can be a landscape, considered landscaping?
Yes, the code does require a more thought-out landscaping plan. So in general conformance with what you see here, at the building permit stage, we will request a more thought-out landscaping plan for the project. And they probably provided more detailed view within the plan set.
I see, thank you.
Through the chair.
Thanks very much.
Commissioner Smoot?
Yes. Michael, item 10 on the conditions of approval, I don't know if I've ever seen this before. FAA notification and approval? What's that all about?
How do I explain it? So we do have that condition. It's actually new to me, but in San Bruno, because we're in the flight path of the planes, we are required to notify the airport for additions, basically. And so we have a standard form that we have them fill out for an exemption if that's the way they want to go. Otherwise, we have to more formally notice them of the addition.
Is this for real? I mean, it just seems a little bit of overkill to me that an addition to a home in San Bruno would require FAA notification and approval. Maybe it's just a rubber stamp, but it just seems kind of ridiculous to me. I mean, we're not talking about 5, 6, 7, 8-story building here. We're talking about maybe a second-story addition. It just doesn't make sense to me that we would have to do that.
Again, through the chair, Commissioner Samud, as the senior planner indicated, it is a requirement that we need to comply with, but we've worked with the FAA, and the process really is that the architect or property owner can submit an exemption form. So they're looking for a case-by-case check to make sure that there's a review of new construction, even additions, within the flight zone areas. And so in this case, they don't necessarily need to go through a formal approval process. If the architect involved reviews the FAA plans, the proposed project, and signs an affidavit and submits it indicating that this person has reviewed the plans and finds that it meets the criteria for an exemption, it's filed and it's done. So it's a requirement that came to our attention probably about 1.5 to 2 years ago. And generally, we try to notify the applicants up front and let them know of the requirement. And if they submit the form in a timely manner early in the process and get the exemption in place, you won't see this condition. If that doesn't happen, then we put the condition in. So this is a relatively new requirement. It is real, and it's something that we've been told that we need to comply with and assure that our applicants comply with. But there is an exemption process, and additions in most projects like this fall within that exemption.
But it just seems so onerous to me that we have to do this. And is San Bruno the only city that has to do this? Is Millbrae or South San Francisco or Daly City? Anybody else have to go through this process?
Yes, other cities in the surrounding area that have similar flight zones have to comply. So other nearby communities have to do this as well.
Okay. I think it's crazy, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
No, I just agree with Commissioner Samud, it is crazy.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, we'll open up the public comment. Is the applicant here? Would you like to step to the podium, give us your name, and tell us about your project?
Hi, how you guys doing? My name is Jose Mena. I own the property at 859 Green Street. And that's all I want to say. Thank you very much for the opportunity that you guys are giving me here. And I just want to go ahead and do the addition. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? No? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on this project? No? Okay, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for conversation or a vote.
Okay, through the chair.
Commissioner?
There isn't any other comments. Move that the planning commission approve use permit 16-003 based on findings of 1 through 6 and subject to conditions of approval 1 through 26.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that, but I have a question on it. Will we correct the table in the report?
Through the chair, yes, we will do that.
Thank you.
And through the chair, just to make sure the the landscaping plan gets done, this condition 9 says it will be done according to the plans approved on April 5th. I think I would like to add the phrase "and or required by staff."
Through the chair, if I could, on this, I agree with the commissioner's comments in terms of wanting to assure that a final landscape plan is reviewed and approved. I would agree as well that in terms of impermeable surfaces, we would certainly look at making sure that there are permeable surfaces within the area, and there are specific code requirements in terms of percentages. So the community development director, myself in that position, we will assure that this plan, this is not the plan. We will assure that there's a plan that meets code requirements and that there are permeable surfaces meeting our codes as part of the final plan going through for a building permit.
But this condition has been customized for this application, and it gives the impression that the plans that are included in the report and the drawings are the final. Wouldn't it be reasonable to say and or required by code even?
I would say that we should modify the language here. I agree in terms of this plan not satisfying code requirements. So the idea is that the applicant shall submit a final landscape plan It shall be reviewed and approved by the Community Development Director in accordance with applicable city codes. And with that, that would ensure that the permeable surfaces that you're looking for per code requirements would be part of a finally approved plan. So I would offer that language.
Okay, I accept that and move to go forward that way.
Okay, so we'll go back to the motion maker.
Yes.
Is that acceptable?
It is acceptable.
Okay, and the second?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion is approved, and there's a 10-day appeal period. Good luck. All right, the next item is item B, 110 Elm Avenue. This is a request for a use permit to allow a two-story addition on the south side of a single-family dwelling that'll add 1,738 square feet. Staff report, please.
Again, good evening, Commissioners. Michael Smith, Planning Department staff. The subject property is located on Elm Avenue between Santa Lucia and San Felipe Avenues in the San Bruno Park subdivision. The subject lot measures 5,000 square feet in area and is currently developed with a single-family dwelling that's one story and was constructed in 1931 and contains 2 bedrooms and 1 bath and a single-car garage within 1,010 square feet. Immediately adjacent to the subject property are single-family dwellings. The applicant is proposing to construct a 1,738 square foot 2-story addition at the south side of the existing dwelling, which will increase the gross floor area of the existing home by greater than 50%, 172% to be exact, thus requiring a use permit. The ground floor of the addition would house a 2-car garage and a family room. The second floor of the addition would have the 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and the proposed gross floor area of the addition would be the resulting building would be 2,748 square feet, which corresponds to a .549 FAR. The addition would infill a atypical vacant portion of the lot that is located behind a fence on the south side of the property. The existing building would tie into the addition with new stucco cladding, new windows, trim, and new roofing material to give it a seamless and consistent architectural vocabulary. The Architectural Review Committee reviewed this project at its March meeting and forwarded the project to the Planning Commission with no additional recommendations. The department mailed hearing notices to neighbors within 300 feet of the subject property, and in response to that mailing, a member of the public did come to the counter last week to express her concern about the project, but did not wait to speak to planning staff and did not leave her name or contact information. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the use permit request based on findings 1 through 6 and subject to conditions of approval 1 through 28. Although the addition is sizable relative to the existing building, it would greatly increase the building width. Staff finds that the design of the project complies with the residential design guidelines because it presents a unified design statement, and it would respect the scale, bulk, and diverse character of homes in the surrounding neighborhood through the application of step-backs and setbacks that articulate the front wall of the building. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions or comments.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Nope. Okay. Thank you, Michael. Okay, we'll open up the public hearing. Is the applicant here? Would you like to step to the podium and give us your name and tell us about your project?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the owner of 110 Elm Avenue. I'm Jason. Yeah, the house right now is kind of small. That's why we try to, make it a little bit more bigger, And then there's an empty lot on the side, Thank you for spending your times. Thank you.
Could I ask a question, sir?
Commissioner Peterson, go ahead.
Through the chair. I went out to the site to look at the building, and one area I wanted to make sure I understood it. It looked like on the plans you were going to take the garage and put new foundations in there and put a raised floor so that it's same height as the rest of the first floor. Is that correct?
It's not the same height. The garage and the family room is going to be 3 steps difference.
Oh, so you mean just a second.
Yeah, that's actually not shown.
In the new area on page 7, that's not going to be the same level as the rest of the house?
No, because the lot is in a kind of a slightly slope, you know. They're not exactly the flat area. It's very, very slightly, you know.
Let me see if I'm not asking the question correctly.
Actually, the drawings do say raise the existing garage level to match new or existing house roof level. So it is confusing.
So in the new dining room, that floor will be the same elevation as the
Yes.
living room?
Yes, yes.
Okay, because when I went there, there was a tenant there, and I didn't see you there, so, I mean, you wouldn't know I was there, but he wouldn't let me look at the garage. I wanted to see what it looked like, what elevation it was.
Yeah, the garage right now is kind of flat, right? And then we try to raise it, match the existing level of the house.
Okay, so you'll put in a new foundation for
Yes,
that
yes,
floor?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I just want to make sure I understood it. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak on this issue? No? All right, in that case, we'll close the public hearing and we'll move it back to the commission for comments or a vote.
Through the chair.
Commissioner
Actually,
Smoot.
Yeah, unless there's going to be discussion,
I actually have a comment through the chair.
all right, I'll hold.
Okay. Commissioner.
I have a question for staff. Since the garage is essentially going to be taken apart completely, because if you take out the foundation and you take out the roof, you're essentially taking out the wall, the party wall.
Correct.
Are they going to have to meet other requirements for putting back a party wall for a dining room that will force them back to the planning commission?
I don't expect that this will come back to the planning commission. No, I would expect
Because it'll
that-
change the architecture of the space if they're right on the property line, and right now if they're going to be forced to come 5 feet in because they're completely demoing out that wall.
Yes,
So they can rebuild in place, and they will not be forced back into a design review or a planning commission review,
right, they can rebuild in place.
in
Yes.
kind, essentially.
Correct. That's
Even
correct.
though it's going to raise the floor,
Even though it's going to raise the floor.
and the roof
Correct.
line will change.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
thank you. Commissioner Smith?
I would like to make the motion that the planning commission approve use permit 16-003 based on findings of fact 1 through 6 and subject to conditions of approval 1 through 28.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
You can-
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments before we vote?
One comment through the chair. On the report, it says application number, use permit 16-001, but then further down on the recommendations, it's use permit 16-003. So one of those, excuse me, are one of those incorrect? Or is that just how it's supposed to read? It's on the front cover sheet of our staff report. Third item down, application number, and then further down under recommendation.
Should be 16001.
So that should be the same for the recommendation?
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Under recommendation, it should be 16001.
Yeah, I think that was an error. because this was 16003.
So it's 16001, was that where we're, yeah, because the other one is 16003, the previous one.
Correct.
Great.
Okay, once again, we'll go back to the motion maker just to clarify. Are you good with that?
Sure, yeah.
And the second?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that
We
was-
have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The motion is approved, but there's a 10-day appeal period. Good luck with your project. Okay, item C, 139 Florida. Request for use permit to allow 1,010 square foot first and second floor addition and with a detached 426 square foot garage. Staff report, please.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. I'm Paula Bradley, the project planner. And this is a addition at 139 Florida Avenue. The applicant's proposing to construct a new 1,010 square foot two-story addition and a detached 420 square foot garage, which would increase the gross floor area from 1,070 square feet to 2,296 square feet, including the garage. And the floor area ratio would be 0.53, where 0.55 is the maximum permitted. There's also proposed a tandem garage, which requires a parking exception. There's an existing one-car garage on site that will be demolished and replaced with a two-car tandem garage. With the approval and construction of the project, it will resolve a code enforcement case for illegal construction regarding construction in the home, including a 210 square foot room and bathroom on the ground floor, and then also a rear deck and stairs. If approved, the two-bedroom, two-bath home would become a three-bedroom, two-and-a-half-bath home. And the project was reviewed at the Architecture Review Committee, and a few questions were asked about the project, about the floor plan and internal circulation. And then I just wanted to say that it's kind of an unusual shaped lot. It's somewhat pie-shaped. The existing home on the site is part of the home. It has a second floor existing, and part of that, the ground floor has the required ceiling height of 7.5 feet, but most of the ground floor is unfinished. It's considered crawl space, and the only area they could have habitable space was the area called the office and that front bathroom. So the applicant's proposing to add a family room to the ground floor. The new portion of the house would, on the left side, would meet the ceiling height with the new addition, and then the existing home would actually be somewhat split level. So it's a little unusual in the shape of the lot. It's substandard in size as well. So since the ARC meeting, the Architecture Review Committee meeting, we had some discussion and questions about the landscape plan. The applicant had proposed some ground cover that's decomposed granite, which is kind of a finer rock ground cover, in addition to plants. So some suggestions were made. The applicant came back with a revised plan, which includes more green area, and they'd still like to have the decomposed granite rock as the ground cover, which is not uncommon for low water use types of gardens to have other materials as ground cover than plants. But they did increase the area of planting by adding planters along the front and then increase the size of the planters. So they did submit a new landscape plan. Staff has also included a condition requiring more plants and specific details about the planting and irrigation system that would be required to be submitted as a final landscape plan prior to, it'd have to be submitted prior to issuance of a building permit, and the landscape plan would have to be approved and installed prior to occupancy. So the plan that's shown in your plans actually isn't the final plan, given that staff has requested additional information as a condition of approval. There hasn't been any comments since the Architecture Review Committee meeting. There was one neighbor who came to that meeting and asked some questions, but I think the questions were answered satisfactorily. We haven't had any further comment since the public notices were mailed out for the Planning Commission hearing. Pertaining to the parking exception, I mentioned that it's a tandem parking space. The new garage will meet the 20-foot setback from the front property line, so that will be an improvement. And then it's kind of an unusual shape due to the shape of the lot. So given the size of the lot, the pie shape of the lot, the only real option, and that this is an addition, not a new house, it seemed like the only way to have 2 parking spaces was tandem. And so staff thought that was justifiable. So staff is also asking, or requiring a condition of approval that in the ground floor area, that the utilities be removed from the source. The front bathroom, the existing full bathroom in the ground floor area is required to be removed, and then they proposed a half bathroom off of the family room. So staff was requiring that full bath not be allowed because there's no internal circulation with the rest of the home, including the second floor. And the second floor existing deck will be removed, and the proposed new deck does not create a privacy issue, given that it's enclosed on the side, and it's actually covered, and it's not close to any adjacent home windows, and so that will be different. And that concludes my staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Peterson.
There's a substantial amount of crawl space on the first floor. Did the staff visit that crawl space during the review?
Yes, actually, 2 staff went and visited the home, and we did walk through the crawl area and to ensure that what was shown on the plans was actually accurately depicted on the plans. So we did go look and confirm what was there, and that, saw what the actual floor plan was on that ground floor.
And is that area in use of any kind?
There was on the record, because of the code enforcement case, some illegal use of that crawl space
I'm
area.
sorry, couldn't hear you.
Yeah, there was on the record with the code enforcement case that some of that crawl space area was being used for habitable space and illegal utilities and construction. There was plumbing hooked up and so on in the crawl space. And that's required, all of that's required to be removed to the source.
Is there a concrete slab floor there, or some kind of floor?
It's actually a dirt floor, except for the area where the office and the bathroom is.
The reason I'm asking is because the commission approved a number of garage modifications in which there was over the past, say, 3 or 4 years, there was a substantial amount of storage space above the garage that was designated not to be habitable space, but they functionally used it as habitable space. So I'm wondering how likely is it that this crawl space would return to some kind of a semi-habitable usage. Did staff consider that?
There is a standard condition that requires that a single-family home only be used for one dwelling unit. And, you know, it would become a code enforcement issue again if it was found that the area was inhabited. Staff believes that by requiring the plumbing and the electrical be removed from the crawl space area, that would help that space returning to habitable. If it's possible, they could do that.
Through the chair, if I could add, I think what we could do here is perhaps add a condition. This is something that we often do through the building permit process, where the construction documents actually indicate that a particular area in a case like this is not habitable. And it's specifically indicated on the plans that are on file with the city. So our building inspectors, as the associate planner indicated, will make sure that any utilities are removed to source that the area at this time is not habitable. And the next step we could require, which we often do, typically do actually, in cases like this, that this area is indicated to be not habitable on the plans, actually stamped on the plans that are on file with the city. And that's probably as far as we can go. And if there's a complaint, we would respond and check out the circumstance, and if they're using the space as habitable space, it would be a code violation. We'd have to follow up as a code violation. But I think with the inspection, with the indication on the plans at this time, that's probably as much as we can do. And if there's a violation, we'll follow up in the future.
Through the chair. It may also help to resolve my fellow commissioners' concern. The big plans for A3 do reflect the full bath being removed and the half bath being added.
Right.
However, if you were referencing the plans attached to the summary, it still shows the old thing of having the full bath there and no half bath. So that might help to alleviate some of the concerns.
Right. And just I appreciate your listening to this long question. Just to be clear on this, my experience is in San Bruno is that it's very common to use a crawl space for dead storage of cardboard boxes full of papers and whatnot, but that people don't routinely use the area for reading, watching TV, having a recreation facility, whatever. Is that correct? Understanding correct?
We agree with that, yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Through the chair. Paula, you have spoken with the applicant, because, you know, I was on the Architecture Review Committee, and the applicant failed to show for that meeting. And tonight, it looks as though the applicant has failed to show for this meeting. It's hard to kind of get a sense of what's going on when we can't talk to the applicant, and I know you have. Do you know why the applicant isn't here?
I don't know why they're not here, and the applicant, I did communicate to the applicant several times about the location and time of the Planning Commission and the importance of being here, so I'm rather surprised that I've only spoken with the applicant's, the owner's representative, so, and that's, but when I did go out to the site, the owners were there, and you know, there's a language, you know, issue, so I didn't actually speak to them.
Through the chair.
Commissioner?
Couple of things. Did the fire department look at this plan to give comments regarding an existing office exiting through a garage? And that just seems like a huge no-no, in my opinion. Two, my second point, when I look at how much demo is being done in this space, it baffles me that there are so many stairs in this house. And there's so many convoluted spaces. The flow in this building is appalling, actually. It's the first time I'm probably thinking about abstaining from a vote or voting no. My third point is that there are things on this plan that don't make sense to me. For example, on A3, proposed first floor plan, there is a space, and I don't know if it's the north end or basically right above the stairs. There's a new enclosed space under deck. It's an enclosed space with a window in it, with no entrance or exit out of that space. I don't really understand what's going on with this floor plan. I really don't. I'm at a point. I'm at a loss for approving this plan.
Right, there is an enclosed space under the,
With a window. Mm-hmm.
with no door. Yeah.
With no door, with no access, great, fantastic window. But just the look and the flow of the space, I'm having a hard time giving this an approval. Majority of this building is being ripped apart to build these rooms on the second floor, and we're putting in 3 sets of stairs to get to different portions of the house that are not connected to each other. At some point, it's a gut remodel, and it makes sense to redo the space in a way that works better. But this plan doesn't make sense to me. And maybe it's exceeding the boundary of a planning commission, but I'd rather abstain than vote yes for this project.
Through the chair, the fire department did review the plans and didn't have any comments on that. And they would be reviewing the plans during the construction phase again. I did talk to the applicant about the enclosed space under the deck and asked them why it was an enclosed space when it had no door, but I don't really have an explanation for that, why they want that. It could be labeled storage. But
Through the chair, I'm just going to make my say that I'm not going to vote yes on this.
Okay. I have a suggestion for the commission. How about we send this back until the applicant can come here and explain it and probably do some review and some changes to this.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Pardon me?
I was going to suggest the same thing,
Okay.
but you did it, so that's great.
Okay. Well, if someone would like to make a motion to that.
Through the
effect.
chair, we haven't gotten to the public hearing yet.
Oh, you're right. I am so
well,
sorry.
we jumped the gun on that, didn't we?
I apologize. You are so right.
And I have some additional comments.
Please.
Before the motion, please.
Of course. Please go ahead.
I want to wait until after the public hearing. I want to hear if any public is here.
Very good. Is there any other questions for staff? Okay, so we'll open up the public hearing at this point. Would any of you folks like to speak on this project? No? Okay. Seeing no one here to speak on this project, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for comments. Commissioner Peterson.
Well, through the chair,
Commissioner.
will you allow me a moment to distribute?
Absolutely.
Are these your pictures, Commissioner
These
Peterson?
are some pictures that I took, well, actually, I didn't take the Google aerial view.
I figured that.
I did take the other picture. And this is an unusual application
Yeah, it is.
for a number of reasons. One is because it's this kind of pie-shaped lot. So I went out to take a look at it, and I also looked at Google more extensively and found out that there are not a lot of other places, even though it's in the heart area where there are pie-shaped lots, there are not a number of other places where 2 buildings virtually merge into each other. And what it suggested to me was that for whatever reason during the building process, there was a lack of planning, a lack of review, a lack of design, and it all came to essentially, it looks like it was to address a desire of the applicants or owners on each property to max out as much space as they could. And where their rectilinear thinking, in other words, square cornered houses, approached each other, they just made a jog over. And what it resulted in is two buildings essentially merging with each other at the property line. I took these pictures below, the view between the buildings. You can only very slightly see through any place between those buildings. And at one place, there was only an 8-inch separation between the buildings. And back further, it looked like they actually merged into each other. I went around the back of the structure. It was inaccessible through trash and various structures. It was not possible to approach where the two structures met each other. You actually have to squeeze through to even get to this place where there's 8 inches of separation. It's not illegal to have zero lot line structures, but when you have zero lot line structures, in other words, two structures that are exactly next to each other, there are construction techniques to build those in any sequence and have a reasonable habitable structure and a wall that doesn't have to be maintained because it's designed to last for many, many, many years with nothing happening. Well, in this case, neither one of these structures have walls that have special construction. They're just conventional construction. They're literally falling apart in many places. And so what my view is that if the applicant wants to build a substantial addition to that structure, that it's fair to make a nexus that the structure should be a reasonable neighbor to other structures. And it would be reasonable to ask that some of these places where there's points of the existing structure merging into the other structure, that they be trimmed off so that they're at least, the finished surface is at least a 1.5 feet away from the property line. And then that would allow, if the other structure comes in for an addition, which it might, that they could be asked to hold their structure a 1.5 feet away from the property line, so there'd be a 3-foot gap. But right now, it's a man trap, it's an animal trap, it's a fire trap. It's ridiculous. And I would advocate that staff take the position that they should ask them what they can do about that. Would they be interested in talking to the adjacent structure about what their mutual concerns might be, particularly where they meet so closely together? It really asks the question. The field conditions literally ask the question, do either one of these structures actually go over the property line? Because they're so close to it, it's very likely that they weren't any more careful in building it than they were in designing it. So when this comes for a motion, what I would propose to move is that as part of any of this current plan implementation, that the existing structure be modified to be at least 1.5 feet away from the property line.
Through the chair, if I could comment on that.
Please.
We've heard a number of comments regarding the design of the structure, the existing design and proposed design of the structure. And I think it would be a very good idea for you to send this back, continue the item. And I would propose to bring it back to our building division staff, our chief building official, and our fire marshal as well, and sit down with staff and look at various options to not just address the code violations that kind of brought this to us to begin with, but to kind of look at some of these other issues and to determine what might be possible, given what's proposed here in terms of, one, correcting code violations, two, adding on to the structure. I would suggest perhaps not being so precise in terms of 1.5 feet off the property line. I would like to, I understand the concerns. I clearly understand the concerns. But I would want to work with our building official, our fire marshal, and other staff, and the design professional and property owner to address your concerns. I think you have very valid, very good concerns, and this project does need more work. But let us go back, work with the applicant, the design professional, and the property owner, and sort this out with our staff. And we'll bring it back to perhaps the Architectural Review Committee initially, and kind of share back to you kind of what we've come up with per code requirements, et cetera, and your committee can kind of decide where to send it at that point. That would be my recommendation.
And through the chair, wouldn't it be important to get a genuine survey and have it marked on the ground where that lot line is?
A survey would be helpful. No question, a survey would be helpful. We've got an existing structure here, so we've got two existing structures, in fact, that have been here a long time. So in terms of modifications to the structure or structures, we would want to look at how are they affecting an existing property boundary. So we'll assess that as well. We'll look at boundaries, proposed adjustments to the structure, and try to address a number of the concerns. I heard flow concerns, proximity concerns, a variety of concerns. Yeah. And so I think it's a situation where we probably need to spend a little bit of time with this from a variety of staff perspectives and work with the architect and property owner to kind of sort this out and bring it back. It could be helpful, like I said, to bring it back to the Architecture Review Committee and share back with the committee kind of what we found, what our suggestions might be at that point, and the committee can decide how to move forward with it. That would be my recommendation.
Commissioner Peterson? Might I suggest we request a survey for that lot? Because we can't really make a suggestion about how to correct it until we know exactly where.
Well, I think there should be a survey because I'm suspicious as to whether some of those structures are actually over the property line.
I agree.
And I don't even think they're vertical, some of them. And when buildings age, it's possible that they get out of vertical. I'm not saying they constructed them totally out of vertical, but they may not have, it's very common that engineers make surveying mistakes in the field, and that could be part of the reason these are so close together.
Right.
So I'd like to make a motion to continue, let's see.
Commissioner, 1 second. Did you have a comment?
Oh, sorry.
Suj?
No, I just wanted to reinforce that, yeah, I would prefer to see a survey done, seeing that the designer is a civil engineer. There
Okay.
should be something in their scope of services.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Perry.
I'd like to move the commission continue use permit 15 dash, let's see, this is no 01, 16 dash, is it 16 dash 003, is that correct? It says 15 dash 001. Which one is it?
Yeah, through the chart, it is 15.
Use
One's
permit.
a use permit,
15001.
parking exception.
And parking exception.
Oh, okay. Continue use permit 15001 and parking exception 16003 with a request to staff to review the items discussed in the Planning Commission meeting of April 5th.
if I could, and a suggestion perhaps to send this back to the Architecture Review Committee?
Well, yeah, sure, I accept that. I think staff can make that election at any time, but.
And a survey as well.
And a survey.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Well, let me make an addition, and a survey with a continuous marking on the ground in the field where the property line is. In other words, yeah, you can have a survey and a drawing, but.
You want to see it on the ground.
As a practical matter, if you don't know where the property is versus the line, it's not doing what it's asked it to. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So we do the adjustment to that, okay?
Accepted. Thank
So
you.
we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The item is returned. Item 6, city staff discussion.
Commissioners, at this point in the meeting, we're looking for volunteers for your next Architecture Review Committee meeting, and that meeting is May 12th. So I would appreciate 3 volunteers.
Come in.
Chair Biasotti, Commissioner Samud, and one more, please. And Commissioner, our Vice Chair Kayal. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any planning commission discussion?
Through the chair.
Commissioner Misha.
Off the record, I wanted to acknowledge that Commissioner Peterson was a little peeved. He didn't find on item number 2, he didn't find the permit number was incorrect. Just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
That's it.
Good. Okay, and I'd like to add that in regard to that last plan that we saw, item C, I would strongly suggest that the applicants come to the architectural review meeting and the planning commission meeting. Strongly suggest.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments? All right, with that, we are adjourned until April 19th.